Hello? Can anyone hear me? This is an emergency. My name is Malcolm Fluffosaurus and my DoorDash delivery is very late. I need to speak to customer service right away. Can anyone please help me?
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Spooky Tales with Steve the Cat. I'm your host, Steve the Cat. Tonight we're going to do something we have not done in a while and check out a film available on Netflix. Now, Netflix is not known for having a big library of horror movies, but this one is pretty good, so I wanted to make sure you know it's out there. We'll get to that in a minute, but first we have something special. Checking in with us live is our good friend who has been missing, Malcolm Fluffosaurus. Come in, Malcolm, are you there? You had us all worried. Are you all right?
Good evening and greetings to you all. I am Malcolm Fluffosaurus, and I am calling to notify you that my DoorDash delivery is very late. Is this customer service?
I suppose I should mention that Malcolm is a little bit confused and thinks we're customer service for his DoorDash delivery.
Can anyone hear me? I've ordered the shawarma platter and I'm concerned that it's going to be cold when it gets here. Also, I wanted to make sure that the Caesar salad has the dressing on the side.
Sure thing, buddy. We'll get right on that. Also checking in with us is our friend Crimson Meerkat, who missed the last episode and had us all a little bit worried. Hey, Meerkat, are you there?
Yes, I am here, Steve. I'm also doing very well. Thank you for asking.
Passive-aggressive as always, I see. So, Meerkat, do you want to fill us in on where you've been since the season premiere? We kind of lost track of you. Is everything okay?
No, Steve, things are certainly not okay. As you know, I have been in the mountains of West Virginia for months now looking for this guy.
I am sorry, but I am very confused. Are you my delivery driver? Do you have my shawarma platter and Caesar salad?
No, I am not your delivery driver. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. I am Crimson Meerkat, expert in all things related to alien abduction and conspiracy theories, and as I said, I've been in the mountains for months looking for Malcolm. Now, as you know, Malcolm was abducted by aliens way back towards the end of Season 3. This led to the evil Helen Trash Panda launching a wrongful death lawsuit against us on behalf of Malcolm's estate. Now that I've found Malcolm, I'm hoping we can get that suit dismissed.
We're streaming this conversation live to PBDC TV headquarters so the legal team can file a motion to dismiss. I know the attorneys that have been working the case were disappointed because they've been able to bill a lot of hours up until now. One of them bought a boat.
Yes, I'll play them a sad song on my violin later. So, a couple of episodes back, I finally made my way to the cave where we last detected any sign of Malcolm when I was rudely attacked by a bounty hunter turned process server who was trying to make me call off my search and fly home for a deposition. Well, then a giant cave monster showed up, and there was yelling, and there was screaming, and I ran for my life, and yada yada yada, and I ended up here.
In other words, you ended up back outside the cave.
No, I am not back outside the cave. I was running away, and it was very dark, so I tripped, and the next thing I know I'm underwater in some sort of underground river. I'm still soaked to the bone, by the way. As soon as I got my head up to take a breath, I feel everything drop away from underneath me, and I find myself going down some sort of underground waterfall.
Oh no. No. Do not tell me what I think you're about to tell me.
Oh yes, Steve, an underground waterfall. Once I got my bearings, I found myself here, in some sort of hollow earth, land of the lost kind of place. Malcolm's been here for weeks. The aliens had abducted him, assumed he was from here, so they dropped him off right outside the cave that leads here.
I have tea with the lower primates every Tuesday. The conversation is a bit slow, but the marmalade is very fresh.
I can't believe the writer is doing a Land of the Lost bit.
I am still very confused as to why my shawarma has not yet been delivered. The driver is putting his 5-star rating in jeopardy.
Ever since I got here, he's been complaining about his DoorDash delivery being late. I think the alien abduction has him even more confused than usual. You guys can't get us out of here soon enough.
Wait a minute, what? Can't you just, leave?
I fell down an underground waterfall, Steve. It's not like I was able to mark a trail on my way down. Can't you send Guinevere to pick us up?
No, Gwen isn't available. She waited for you for 24 hours, then hopped a flight home. She's on vacation to the Caribbean right now.
But you can't just leave us down here.
Oh, don't be silly. We're not going to leave you down there. But technically, a mission to the Lost World is international travel, and you've already taken a big bite out of the travel budget for the year, so it might take some time to get approval for a rescue mission.
But what am I supposed to do in the meantime?
I recommend we try to find a table service restaurant. The delivery service here is very poor. Would you care to join me for some shawarma?
No, I do not want shawarma. I want to get out of here.
Well, look at the bright side. The air is clean, you're away from the city, and at least Malcolm hasn't written any new raps.
That is an excellent suggestion. I should compose a new rap opera, one that channels the pain of my loneliness and the disappointment of the poor DoorDash delivery service.
Oh, you had to do it, didn't you? You just had to do it. That's it. I'm going to bed. Meerkat out.
Well, at least our friend Malcolm is safe. Although it looks like he's stuck with whatever local dining options they can find in the short term, since they seem to be outside the shawarma delivery area. But now that we've heard from Malcolm and Meerkat, and now that we've given the latecomers time to join the live watch party, it's time to get down to the business of horror movies. Thank you so much for joining us. We're glad you're here. Now pour yourself a drink and relax, because here we go.
Stations.
Is this where we're going to be staying?
It is, buddy.
Yep. Just for a little while. You can take your suit off now. You're safe.
What if they're contaminants?
There aren't any, honey. This is a clean house. In a normal, healthy body, antibodies are produced by stem cells in the marrow. But in your body, that gene is impaired. So I'm going to take this specially modified virus and inject it into the marrow. This virus is going to repair that gene and reset your entire immune system. Poof. It's like a magic trick.
I used to be scared of fire. Then I learned how to master it.
Unfortunately, the virus that's going to cure your affliction is unable to cross the blood-brain barrier, so we have to penetrate. Drill. Relax. Stress will just make your symptoms worse.
You can't do it! Yes, you can! You're so much stronger than the others. Lucius. Treatment 1. Treatment 2. Treatment 3.
The devil always plays.
All right, let's get into our featured film review for the evening. Tonight, we're going to talk about this film. It is called Eli. Eli is a supernatural horror film released in the year 2019, so relatively recent in the grand scheme of things. It was directed by Kieran Foy, and the cast includes the lovely Kelly Riley, the lovely Sadie Sink, Lily Taylor, Max Martini, and Charlie Shotwell. Sadie Sink, of course, you know from Stranger Things and the Fear Street trilogy. Kelly Riley has been in a variety of things. I believe most recently she's a cast member on Yellowstone. I remember her as Dr. Watson's fiancée in the Sherlock Holmes films that starred Robert Downey Jr. Let's get into setting your expectations for this film. If you're going to sit down to watch Eli, what you should expect is a well-made supernatural horror thriller that will keep you guessing until the end. Now, from that description, you might have guessed that if you like The Conjuring, you'll like Eli, and that is true. The other film I have thrown in here that you might like also is The Autopsy of Jane Doe. So if you're a fan of The Autopsy of Jane Doe, you'll probably enjoy Eli as well. Now, Autopsy of Jane Doe is a film that we have not reviewed on this show, although I love it and I recommend it highly, but I've not been able to find it available on any of the streaming services that I normally use when it was time to do a film review. And I don't want to review something that you can only access through a particular cable premium channel. So hope to get to The Autopsy of Jane Doe at some point in the future. Let's help calibrate your sights. This is the scale we like to use. On the far left side of the scale, we have very campy films, such as the very silly film Jason X. On the far right, we have very serious films, such as The Silence of the Lambs. Where does Eli fall on the scale? Well, Eli falls pretty far to the right. It is a serious film. I'm not going to put it all the way over to the right because it does involve ghosts and the supernatural. But beyond that, it has a very serious feel to it. It's not a popcorn film. It's not a summer Scream movie like Scream to please the teens. It is an actual scary supernatural horror movie. Now, before we go any farther, we need to talk about our vocabulary lesson for the week. This, of course, is the part of the show where we discuss new and innovative words and phrases in an effort to stay ahead of social media bots and algorithms that would otherwise try to ban our conversation. The robots are always getting smarter, so our language must continue to evolve to stay ahead of them. 2 words this week. Our first is enfuegoinating, which isn't too hard to figure out, but in the spirit of things, enfuegoinating is a noun referring to the action of setting a character ablaze. Now, if you've not heard the term enfuegoinating, it's possible that you may have heard some of its colloquial forms, such as baked Alaska-ing and Richard Pryoring. Our second term is hot air ballooning, which is a little strange. Hot air ballooning is a recap of a word used several seasons ago. Hot air ballooning is a noun referring to the action of levitating and floating around the room, or at least appearing to levitate and float around the room, because an unseen creature or supernatural force has a grip on you. Now, there are some particulars to go with this. The creature or force does not necessarily have to be invisible, just unseen, such as when a character off-screen or on the other side of a doorway has a grip on a character's leg and lifts the character off of the floor. I think of that from the werewolf movie we did a while back called Howl. Somebody trying to get on board the train makes it all the way, except a leg sticking out through the sliding door. We never see what has a grip on the leg, but we do see them get lifted up and down. Anyway, those are your vocabulary words for this evening. Please keep these terms in mind. They will become important later in the episode. So let's get into a summary of this film. Eli Miller is a young teen with a rare immune system disorder that causes severe allergic reactions to the outdoors, and you got a little taste of that in the preview earlier. Eli's days consist of time spent inside a plastic bubble and the need to don a protective suit when he goes outside. Yes, Eli literally is the boy in the plastic bubble. So Eli's parents drive him cross-country to the clinic of Dr. Isabella Horn, who has developed a gene therapy treatment that can cure Eli's condition. Hooray for Dr. Horn. Except, as he starts the treatment, Eli begins to experience what can only be described as supernatural phenomena, leading him to wonder, is the clinic haunted? And just what is this doctor up to anyway? So that leads us to our villain profile. Our villain for this film is quite simply ghosts. You never necessarily get a square look at the ghosts in this film. They're always kind of seen in the shadows right in the corner of your eye, but we have a little bit of an illustration here. Ghosts, of course, belong to the class of supernatural spirit / apparition. Please save me your hate mail. I'm talking about ghosts in the terms of this film and not in the broader context. The special powers for these ghosts are that they haunt the clinic and they have some limited ability to interact with the physical world, including the ability to grab Eli and drag him about the clinic. Hence the need for hot air ballooning as a vocabulary word. Now, they don't really have any signature weapons, but the ghosts are able to interact with physical objects that can be used as weapons. They can fog up glass and write messages in the fog. They can scratch messages into pieces of furniture, so they can interact with the physical world in some sense or another. And now a word from our benevolent overlords at PBDC TV, your nightly heartbeat of horror.
You are found guilty of witchcraft. You are found guilty. You are found guilty. Witchcraft. You are found guilty.
So let's talk about the things I liked about this film. Right off the bat, it is well directed with a menacing, spooky atmosphere similar to The Autopsy of Jane Doe, which once again is a film I love and highly recommend. Have not reviewed on this show yet for availability reasons, but hopefully one day we'll do a review of The Autopsy of Jane Doe. Those of you who know the film and love it will probably like Eli as well. The film Eli manages to make the gene therapy sessions suspenseful and scary. If you have a fear of needles or a fear of hospitals, this movie will probably work pretty well for you. It is an interesting story with a number of twists and turns. It seems everybody knows more than they are saying in this film. You never get a good look at the ghosts. They are concealed in a number of ways or appear as figures in the shadows. I kind of liked that, never giving you a square look at the villain. And finally, I liked the final twist to the film. There is a final twist. I am not going to tell you what it is, but I will say I did enjoy it. Now, no movie is without flaw, so there are some things that could have been better about this film. Let's just run down a few of those. Right off the bat, it is a Netflix exclusive. I don't like to do Netflix exclusives because on the one hand I prefer to stick to movies that are available through a broader audience, say through Tubi or Pluto TV or free streaming services like Freevee. But the other side of that story is that Netflix is not known for having a big catalog of horror. But a lot of people do own Netflix, so when Netflix does have a horror movie worth watching, I want to make sure people are aware of it, and you may have missed this one. It has a low body count. It is a supernatural suspense kind of film. It's not a lot of blood and gore. It's not a high body count kind of film. Similarly, the film feels more PG-13 than R-rated. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means that in the scenes that are meant to play on your fears of hospitals and needles, you're not going to see a lot of blood and gore and grisly surgical stuff going on. It's more implied to give the more PG-13 kind of rating than an R rating. The use of a small cast and mostly one location gives the film a claustrophobic feel. Now, that's what the director is going for. That is something that also happens in The Autopsy of Jane Doe. Some people might not enjoy that. Now, in this film, it falls on a young teen to carry the majority of the film, which is always a risk. Now, in this film, Charlie Shotwell does a commendable job of leading the cast as Eli. He won't make you say, wow, this guy needs an Oscar, but it's more than a good enough performance to not distract from the underlying film. The film is a little slow in the middle. There's no way around that. The film is a little bit slow in the middle. And finally, some of you may not enjoy the final twist. Once again, there is a final twist. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I will say that I enjoyed it, but you may not. So let's get to Steve's scorecard for this film right off the bat. Kills, I counted 4. Bare breasts, drum roll please, none. It is not that kind of film. Kelly Riley keeps herself covered, guys. Sorry. Denogginings, also none. Fun with needles, well, that's continual throughout the film. There is continual fun with needles in this movie. Brain drilling, you get one instance of brain drilling in this film. Hot air ballooning, one of our vocabulary words. At least 5 instances of hot air ballooning in this film that I counted. And for our other vocabulary word, infuegoinating, I have broken this down into multiple categories. First category, we have car flambe. Counted 1. Nurse flambe. I counted 3. And finally, house flambe. I counted 1. So a car, a house, and 3 nurses are set ablaze in the course of this film. But that is not all that you get with your viewing of Eli. You also get these bonus features, including a Sadie Sink sighting. Yes, the lovely Sadie Sink from Netflix's Stranger Things, known as Mad Max, or maybe you remember her from the Fear Street trilogy movies. She does appear in this one as well, once again appearing in a Netflix feature. You get decontamination action. You get painful gene therapy action. Yes, if you have a fear of needles or a fear of hospitals, this film will work for you. You get brain drilling action, which you got a little taste of in the preview. You get shifty doctor action. What exactly is Dr. Horn up to anyway? You're going to start to wonder as the film goes on. You get car burning action. Actually, you get Jeep SUV burning action if you want to be really specific about it. You get house burning action. And finally, question, do people really throw pebbles at windows to get somebody's attention, or does that only happen in the movies? In this movie, as in so many other movies, Charlie Shotwell, playing Eli, is sleeping in his bedroom when a pebble strikes his window and wakes him up, and it turns out there's somebody outside trying to get his attention. This happens in movies all the time. I have never seen it happen in the real world, so please sound off in the comments. Do people actually throw pebbles at windows to get somebody's attention, or is that just something we do in the movies, like the whole thing with getting into a car, flipping down the sun visor, and lo and behold, there are the car keys. Nobody keeps their car keys there in real life, but it happens in films all the time. So with that, let's get to Steve's final score for this film. I'm going to give it 3 paws out of 4. I'm going to say this is a surprisingly good Netflix exclusive ghost story, well directed and well written with a number of twists and turns, and I will say once again that it is especially effective if you have a fear of hospitals or needles. So I liked this film. I recommend this film. You may disagree. If you disagree, you may sound off in the comments and tell me why. No worries about that. But I give this one 3 paws out of 4. I would say it's surprisingly good. So that is Eli, and that is our featured film review for the evening. We've come to the end of another episode of Spooky Tales with Steve the Cat. But before we go, as is our tradition, we'll take just a couple of minutes to discuss some of the other stuff I watched this week. Tonight, we're going to talk about a film called Frankenstein. Yes, Frankenstein. You know the name, you love the name. There have been umpteen million versions of Frankenstein. Tonight we're talking specifically about the 2015 film directed by Bernard Rose, who you may know as the director of Candyman. Now, I found this film on Shudder, and this is a modern day remake of the Mary Shelley classic. So this is not a steampunk kind of film. It is modern day lab coats and such, not grave robbing, but more biologically 3D printing a creature. Now, in this film, Victor Frankenstein and Elizabeth are scientists working on a secret project to artificially create a human being. They initially are successful, but ultimately abandon the creature as defects begin to emerge in the creature's genetic makeup. And the creature then undertakes a long, difficult, and heartbreaking journey in an attempt to reunite with what he considers his family. So what did I think of this film? Well, it's interesting that it's a sci-fi adaptation of the original story, and it changes the technical details, but follows the story faithfully beyond that. So, like I said, it's not about grave robbing and stitching corpses together. The creature is, say, 3D printed from a biological printer, but beyond that, the story is faithful to the original story of Frankenstein. It only differs in technical details. Now, on the pro side, the cast is good, it's fairly well written, and it's interesting in that it's told from the creature's point of view. So the entire story is seen from the creature's point of view, not from Victor Frankenstein's. On the con side, for me, it just took too long to get to an ending where you already knew what was going to happen. It was just too slow and ponderous. In fact, I would say it is too slow and ponderous to recommend fully. I wasn't that impressed with this film at the end of the day. So I would say it's not recommended unless you're in the mood for something slow, introspective, and ultimately sad. Of course, Frankenstein is a very sad story. We all know the story. That's why I don't really recommend this one. It's not really going to give anything new to you if you know the Frankenstein story. And if you're not familiar with it, there are better theatrical versions out there. It's not a bad film. The practical special effects are pretty good. The acting is pretty good. The writing is pretty good. It's just too ponderous and too slow for my taste. So that is Frankenstein, and that is the other stuff I watched this week. That brings us to the end of another episode of Spooky Tales with Steve the Cat. Thank you so much for joining us. We're glad you're here. Now, if you did enjoy the show, then please check us out on social media. You can find Steve the Cat on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, so please stop by and hit that subscribe button. And of course, Spooky Tales with Steve the Cat is available exclusively through the PBDC Collective Incorporated, now legally incorporated but still your heartbeat of horror. You can find us on the web at psychobunnydc.com, or you can check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, Rumble, and Discord. Now, the Discord site is for members only, so if you're interested, please go to psychobunnydc.com and click a link for the invitation. Next episode, we're going to talk about another surprisingly good supernatural horror movie that I was once again surprised to find on Netflix. It's sure to be a lot of fun, so make sure to join us on Monday nights at 10 p.m. And remember, we're now on every other week, alternating Monday nights with Ghoul Radio. So join us next week for Ghoul Radio, and we'll be back with a new episode of Spooky Tales the following week. That's all for now, so until next time, thank you for joining us, and have a great week.